All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today we are going to be talking about socialism. Okay. Last class we talked about communism. Um, Today is socialism. The next class we'll be talking about capitalism. Okay. So, let's look up the objectives. We're going to analyze what socialism really means. We're going to examine how socialism became popular for poor and middle class peoples, especially at a particular part of time. And we're going to create an argument on whether socialism would be a good fit for our country or not. All right, so here is your warm up picture. So, what do you think this artist is trying to say about socialism? So, look at what the guy has in his hand and how it says socialism, and look what's on the wall there. Now, if you've ever seen someone do this or something close to it, you know you have an idea what happens afterwards. Okay. And if you've never seen someone do this, I'm sure you can use your imagination and think what would happen if someone did that. Okay. So think about it, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So socialism. It's a form of economic system where the government basically owns the basic means of production. Okay. Now you might hear people in this country saying communism and socialism is the exact same thing. It's not. Okay. Communism, if you forgot, is where the government controls everything. In socialism, the government owns the basic means of production. So things like water, electricity, some of that, right? They determine the use of these resources. You know, how much water to use, electricity, things like that. They distribute the products and wages. So they set like, okay, you know what? People need at least this much money to live, you know. And they provide social services such as education, healthcare, and welfare. Okay. Now, the thing is, like I was saying in class, I've known some people who said, "Oh, socialism is horrible. Socialism is wrong," and I'm like, "Do your kids go to public school?" Yeah. Well, that's socialism. When your wife was pregnant, did she use WIC, to help her out buy, um, some formula, baby, diapers, things like that? Yeah. Well, that's socialism because that's a government paid program. So yeah, they don't want to admit it, but yeah, that is socialism. Okay. Now, socialism has three main goals: the distribution of wealth and economic opportunities equally amongst the people. So, when people read that first part, distribution of wealth, they think, oh, that the rich people should take their money, we should take it away and divide it amongst the people. No, it's to the effect of you shouldn't be rich just because, for doing nothing. If you're working, sure, you get paid just like everyone else, but you shouldn't get paid just because, like a ton of money, just because, you know, you did nothing. You're just because you have a title, you know. And that's where the second part comes in: the economic opportunity equally amongst the people. So it shouldn't matter who your daddy is, your mommy, things like that. No, if you are the best person for the job, you should be able to get it. You know, it shouldn't matter. Oh, what school did you go to? Oh, you didn't go to this preppy school. So we're not going to hire you. No, if this person is the best at what they do, and that's what that company needs, they should be hired. You know, at the very least, looked at. Their resume should be looked at and been considered at the top. So that's what they're saying. The next one: society's control through its government of all major decisions about production. So let's say the government says we want to build a highway going straight from New York to LA, and it's going to be 200 feet in the air. So it's going to go all over all the other roads and stuff like that. We, the people, would basically say, you know what? No, no, we don't want our money going to that. Our resources, things like that. All right. Now, public ownership of most land, of factories and means of production. So the government doesn't own all the factories. They don't even own majority. The public owns it, but the government does own a tiny bit of factories and land and stuff like that. But they don't own all of it or even a majority, just a tiny bit. So where did this whole thing of socialism come from? Well, in the 19th century, so in the 1800s, um, the world was going through an industrialization period, especially in Europe and the United States, where these factories started popping up. And there was a lot of these factory owners and managers who were like, you know what? Why should we make sure that this factory has safe working conditions? If a worker gets hurt or killed, so sad, too bad, move them out of the way, hire somebody else. People were seen as you just you could just be there, if you don't want it, the job, somebody else will take it. So, because they need the job. So they treated their workers like crap. The working conditions was horrible. And on top of that, where they lived was horrible. So if you look at that picture, there's like 8 people in that picture. And the room is tiny. We're talking maybe 8 feet by 6 feet. So it's not very big. And this is where they have their kitchen, living room, bedroom, all in there. There's no bathrooms. A lot of times, these bathrooms are in the hallway where they shared it with everyone else. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, those toilets would get clogged or broken. So these people had to go restroom in buckets and then toss it out a window. So imagine you're walking down the down the alleyway, and all of a sudden, like 3 feet in front of you, you just see this nastiness just fall right in front of you. Now, I said this in classes. A lot of students were like, "Oh, that's nasty. Oh, that's gross." I'm like, "Yeah, but imagine, I'm just telling you, and you're saying that these people lived it every day." So you can imagine how upset and tired and angry and frustrated they got. And that's where they rejected capitalism because they saw it as, we're doing all the work, we're putting our lives on the line, and we're getting paid like crap while the CEO and the owners are living large, eating the best food, drinking the best wines, dressing in the best clothes, while we, the workers who do the hard work for 12, 16 hours a day, are getting paid nothing. And if we something happens to us, they don't care. So they rejected that capitalism idea and favored a more violent revolution because they felt the only way to make a change in society was to basically kick somebody in the teeth to get their attention. Okay. Now, there's a thing called democratic socialism. Democratic socialism. And this is a way for a democratic political system to function with a socialist economic. Okay. And this is done without violence or upheaval in any which way. Okay, so you still, as a people, would have your rights. You know, the government wouldn't come in and say, "Oh, we're going to take over everything." No, that's communism. Democratic socialism, you still get your rights as citizens. You have control over who your representatives are and things like that. And you would have a multi-party system, meaning it wouldn't just be one political party or two. There'd be five, eight, 12, whatever. Okay. Now, there are some people in this country go, oh, whenever a country goes socialist, they go under, their country becomes horrible, and then, they collapse. Yeah, that doesn't, no, that's not true. Countries like Tanzania, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they're a democratic socialist country, and they're doing just fine. They're doing well. So to say that shows that those people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Okay. And why do they not acknowledge that, those countries and some of that? Because a lot of times those type of people don't want to be wrong. They can't take an L, so they'll say, no, 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 you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I can look on the internet and find this and this and that. And it's like, no. The information they find is going to be from websites that's going to tell them they're right. So is that really the right answer? No. Okay. So under a democratic socialist country, the government would control things like the steel mills, shipyards, railroads, airlines. But at the same time, they provide health care and medical care for their people. So some people kind of see it as a trade off. Like, yeah, they would control the means of transportation, but people would have health care and medical care. Young, middle aged, old, everyone. Now, here's the thing, it's not all sunshine and lollipops and things like that for socialism. There are some things that are can be bad about socialism. Okay. So those who oppose it say it takes away from individual initiative. Okay. Because a lot of times when they hire somebody to do a job, they hire a lot of people to do it, and everyone gets paid the same. So let's say you decide, you know what, you're being paid to make some device, and all of a sudden you I don't know, just decide to work harder, faster. Everyone around you makes 10 of these devices. You make 15. What would you expect in return from your bosses? I had some students say in class, "Oh, I think I would expect a raise, or some type of acknowledgement, some type of award, maybe a promotion." Yeah, you would, right? Especially if you continually do that, for a while. Yeah, you would want some type of recognition, some type of reward. But under socialism, no, you wouldn't. Everyone's going to get paid the same because you're all doing the same job. It doesn't matter how much you've done, it's the job as a whole. So some people are like, well, then I'll just make 10 like everyone else and then call it a day. So that initiative to try to climb up the ladder, it's gone. On top of that, yes, in order to pay for the healthcare and stuff of that, your taxes would go up. And those people who don't like socialism say, oh, it hurts our economic growth. It does, but it doesn't. Okay. Uh, there are ways that it can hinder us, but not the way they tend to think. Um, because again, you have to remember, some people don't like high taxes because they're like, well, if it goes to my health care, I don't get sick, shouldn't I get my money back? Because that's my money. Why should my money go to somebody else who is sick all the time and things like that? And that's where some people kind of get that little greedy. They're like, oh, I could use that money to buy other things and do other things that I wanted to do. So there's that. Okay. And on top of that, some feel that an increase in regulation by the government, where the government has more say so in what goes on in our everyday lives, that this will make the government bigger and give them more power. And it's shown in history that those people with power don't like to give it up. They want to hold on to as much as they can. And that would lead to dictatorships where the top people in charge would make sure that they stay in power, their family stays in power, and things like that. Now, has that happened in the past in history? Yes, that has. Has it happened in socialist countries? Mm, kind of. But like the democratic socialist countries? No. You know, no. Communists? Yes. Communist countries? Yes, that has happened. So, but again, they kind of blur, some political parties tend to blur the lines between socialism and capital, socialism and communism. And there's no blur. They're separate from one another. So here is my question to you. In communism and in the beginning parts of socialism, there was a common theme of violent revolution. So my question to you is this. Do you think that the only way to make changes in society is through violence? What do you think? Do we have to kick someone in the teeth, to make change in society? Or can we sit down and discuss things, come to negotiations, find the middle ground? Or do you think no? Eventually, one way or another, in order to make real change, violence is needed. So, what do you think? Okay, tell me what you really think. So, once you finish this question, you're done with this lesson. So, hopefully, you learned something new. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. Um, with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, okay?